Thank you all for giving up hopefully what's not a full hour of your time today. And also thank you for joining the Ag Career Start program. We're very excited um, to see some returning faces, but also some new ones as well. For your knowledge, my name is Kayla. I am the project manager of the Ag Career Start program. I've been with the program now since its inception, so I've been here just over 2 years. I'm based at the National Farmers Federation head office in Canberra, shortly to be working from home from Brisbane. Also joined today by Hayley Murrell, and I'll let her introduce herself quickly now.
Hi guys, I'm Hayley. I do all the recruitment for the program, so the lucky little participants you get, I've recruited them from schools. Hopefully they're good. I work from Gunnedah in New South Wales. So yes, nice and hot.
Yeah. Hayley is currently at the University of New England studying ag, soon to be graduating. So, got a wonderful team. Also, you've probably spoken to two of our other colleagues along the journey at some point. Most of you would have definitely spoken to Steph. So, Steph is our community engagement coordinator, and where Hayley does the participant recruitment, Steph's large role is working with our farmers to get onto the program, but also she manages the relationship with you and your participant and you and us right the way through their placement. Steph's role is also the welfare of our participants once they're on farm as well. So everything to do with welfare relationships is very much Steph's remit. All of that wrapped up in a caveat. Steph is actually leaving us in a couple of weeks' time, which we're very devastated about, but she's had the fantastic opportunity to go and study medicine to become a rural doctor. So that's what she wants to do. So we're saying goodbye to her in a couple of weeks' time. So if you are chatting to her, wish her all the best. But there will be no downtime. We've got someone new coming on board. With overlap. So thankfully you won't be without a port of call, but the phone number will always be the same. Someone will always pick up the phone if you call. And then if you haven't already, you will at some point meet Chloe, who's our training and career development coordinator. Chloe's role is really about administering that training bursary that all of our participants get. So she's very much there for counselling, career guidance and things as well, but also administratively from the point of view of reimbursing anyone for training that you've paid for or getting our participants booked into certain things such as, first aid courses, low stress stock handling schools, all that sort of stuff. So you will work with Chloe throughout the year as well. Both Steph and Chloe are on leave at the moment. You would know probably we had orientation week last week, which was massive. 84 participants all in one location last week. So they are rightfully having some rest for these couple of days. So they'll be back on deck towards the end of the week. And that is the team. A real quick cover on some of this. Hopefully, hopefully I'm not telling you anything you don't already know, but feel free at any time to ask a question. You can pop it in the chat or throw your hand up if you like at any time, and we're happy to answer them as we go. As I said, this session is being recorded as well, so just bear that in mind if you do jump on and turn off your mic, that it will be on the recording. So hopefully you are aware that Ag Career Start is administered by the National Farmers Federation or the NFF. The NFF is the peak body, industry body for advocacy in agriculture, representing farmers. So we don't have farmers as members. We have state farming organisations and commodity groups as members. So many of you might be members of your local state farming organisations, such as New South Wales Farmers, WA Farmers, etc. Or you might be a member of your commodity council, such as Cotton Australia, Grain Growers, those sorts of organisations. So everything that goes through to your state farming organisations and commodity groups feeds up to us here in Canberra at the NFF. The program, whilst run by the NFF, is funded by the Federal Department of Agriculture, which means we are currently reaching the end of our initial funding cycle. I wanted to address this nice and early because we do get some questions. So we received $5.2 million from the federal government to run this program. To deliver 200 places. So we will execute the 200th place this year. So you are the third year in our pilot cohort, and I'll cover some of that in a second. And we are at this point in time going out for further funding. So, and the reason I wanted to share that with you is just because we do get questions, because it comes up that our funding is coming to an end. We are currently seeking funding, as I said, but it also means that occasionally from time to time, we might call on some of you to help us out in sort of sharing your experience in the program with ministers and things like that, or your local members and things. So really important. Not only are you part of this program, I hope you'll all be advocates and ambassadors for the program if you're having a good experience, of course. So any questions about funding, how it's set up, anything like that before I move on? Wonderful. I thought we'd do a bit of a reflection on where we've come from, particularly if you're new here. So as I said, we have delivered 2 cohorts already. So our first pilot cohort was in 2022 and we had 30 participants. Hello, little one. We had 30 participants on farm in year 1 nationally. We had 70 participants last year in 2023, and we will have 100 participants on farm this year. So the program has been scaling significantly, which is massive learnings for the team. And as I'm sure you can imagine, every year, the bigger the cohort, the more challenges we come across. But we're constantly learning and growing and feeling like we're really hitting our strides at the moment. So always open to feedback because we are still obviously in pilot phase, which is a great time to make changes and pivot if we need to. Some of the placements we've had have been in many different industries, from cattle, poultry, viticulture. We've had, I believe now we'll have had our 3rd placement in aquaculture this year, which is really exciting. So very, very diverse. Your participants will be talking to people from all over the country, working in all sorts of different environments, which also makes our job really fun in trying to work with and counsel all those respective people. And so bear with us if there's a time of year that's really busy for you and we're asking you for things, because it's really impossible to work across all those commodity sectors and make it work for everybody. Over the last 2 cohorts, we've had 88% completion, which means of the 100 that started on farm, 88 finished out their gap year. So we're pretty happy with that. Anything attrition below 20% is what we strive to achieve. So really happy with that so far and hope to continue that good success. 81% of our employers have either retained their participant or continued with the program. So some of you will be returning because your participant has moved on to other things, but we do lose quite a number of our host farmers because they've actually retained their employee beyond the end of the program, which is always really nice to see. That cross-industry retention data there. So we've had about 43% of our cohort 1 are still on farm today. Also, this doesn't show cohort 2, which is just finished. It feels a bit early to ask whether or not they're still on farm, but a lot of them are sticking around. And then 39% retained elsewhere. So whether that be studying ag at university, studying some other ag-related program elsewhere, or they've gone on to get another job in agriculture in another location. So again, really happy with attrition below 20%. But the really good thing for us is whether or not they choose to stay in agriculture or still in agriculture today, 94% when they leave tell us that the experience they've had should lead them to a career in agriculture, which is really nice to hear. So that's how it's been going. Any questions there? Hopefully not. Wonderful. Beauty. So first off the bat, as project manager, my job is typically to do the scary stuff. So wanted to cover off just a reminder about your obligations under the program, with the sincerest and most heartfelt thank you again, because this program doesn't run without the goodwill of producers like yourselves. So just a reminder about a couple of things. So of course, it's about providing a safe and enriching experience for your participant on farm. Safety is super, super important to us, particularly for many of these participants who have never been on a working farm before or are experiencing life on a working farm for the very first time. We do ask, if you haven't already, that we have one identified point of contact. So for any of you who might be with larger corporates, make sure that we both have the HR contact, but also the supervisor's contact for whoever is going to be looking after the participant on farm. All of our participants must have a signed employment contract, and you would know by now that we also need to receive a copy of that signed employment contract just for our own record keeping. that it should be a full-time equivalent position, and in most cases they would be under the pastoral or the horticultural award. If you have any questions about that, always you can come and ask us. We're very, very happy to help. We don't want to be the big bad guy with the stick. We just want to make sure everyone's doing the right thing. And please use us as a resource because we have access to some amazing tools that we can help you out with. You won't have received the host farmer agreement yet. That will be coming to you soon. That's essentially an agreement between you and ourselves saying that you're going to do your best not to put your participant in harm's way throughout the year, and a few other things about, not being discriminatory of the program and those sorts of things. But you'll receive that really soon. If you have any questions about that, again, please just come and ask us. You must complete your on-farm induction with the participant, and you will receive a template for this once we've received that employment contract and we know that your participant is going to farm. That's a template. It's a tool. It is not an instruction manual. You should already have your own processes for inducting your new employees, as is the legislation in most states. So this is just a tool to help guide you if you're unfamiliar with some of it, or what our minimum expectations are for how our employees are, or our participants rather, are inducted. We're going to talk about reporting incidents in a second, because this is, for me, is the biggest area for improvement as we move through into our third cohort. Work with the AgCAREERSTART team to assist in providing participants with access to training and development opportunities. We'll talk about training and development a little bit later, but I'll kick it right off the bat just to say they have that bursary there. However, it is not a right for them to use that. It is at your discretion whether or not they have the flexibility to go and use that bursary. However, obviously you have signed up to an upskill program, and hopefully we all have that sort of mindset about providing those training opportunities to your employers and your participants. And then the other part of it is, as much as possible, we do ask you to help your participant assimilate into the local community, whether that be the local community within the business, if it's a large scale business, or a station where there's not a lot of social activities around, or if you can get them involved in the local footy club or introduce them to the local netball team or whatever it might be, we definitely ask for your help there too. And then everything else you need to know is in the handbook, which you will receive again as part of your onboarding packet. That handbook is the Bible. There is hopefully nothing in there, or hopefully any question you have would not be answered in there. So if you have a question, first go to the handbook, try searching for the term you're looking for. Chances are the answer will be in there. The participants also receive a handbook, and I do apologise because it's about a 40-page document, but definitely worth a read if you do have any questions. Anything about any of that I just said? I'll keep whipping through, but just come off mute if you do want to ask a question. That yellow box is very hard to read. I'm so sorry. But this is incident reporting. So whilst we are not the employers, you are the employer, this is a government-funded program, which means I, the NFF, has a duty of care with all of the participants. There's still a risk to us and the government if something happens on farm to one of the participants. So it's really critical for us that we know when things happen on farm. Again, all of this is in your handbook, but just as a quick reminder, there are sort of three categories of incidents which we would like to hear about in varying levels of immediacy. So minor incidents, we would expect to be informed, not immediately, but certainly as soon as you can, just in writing, and that can be an email or a text. We have major incidents, which should be reported immediately following the incident. So something like your participant has a significant mental health episode, or your participant was out at a training event. Say they went to a low stress stock handling school, got drunk, got into a bit of an altercation with someone publicly, and people around town know that they're on the AgCAREERSTART program. Always worth just flicking us an email to let us know that that's happened. Also, if you've terminated your employee, but employee underperformance is sort of what we categorize as a minor incident. We don't get involved in you managing the performance of your employees, but if you are performance managing them, always amazing if you can just shoot us a text and be like, hey guys, participant John, not up to scratch at the moment. We're working through some performance management, just a heads up. That's all we really require. We don't need to have a full conversation about it if you don't want to. But again, we're a tool there to help you. Sometimes it just helps if we come in and chat to the participant and just tell them to pull their heads in and just back you up sometimes. So use us as a resource and a tool and not necessarily, again, the big stick, because that's definitely not what we are, not what we're here to do. And my whole team are really passionate just about just being there to support you guys. And then catastrophic incidents, so touch wood, hopefully not. Unfortunately, we have dealt with some of these before, and we need to know that it's happened. You don't have to disclose a lot of detail, particularly if you've got confidentiality clauses in place in your particular business. That's very fine, but we just need to know that our employee, or sorry, again, our participant may have been exposed to some of these things. We had an incident in our first year where the farmer actually rolled a side by side and had a significant back injury and was off farm for 4 to 5 weeks. And our participant was essentially managing the business on their own. That would have been a really great thing for us to know, because we actually could have called and checked in and made sure they were doing okay. So those are some examples of some things where we really do require you guys to let us know if any of those things happen. Because like I said, it's not about me getting into the detail and keeping you accountable. This is about the fact that this is a government funded program, and if something goes wrong, I'm going to get asked questions, and the worst answer I can give is I don't know. So help me out in that space, if you will. Hopefully you know all this already. You've got the AgCAREERSTART email address, and then you've got the phone number there. So that phone number, that 5602 number, that is a joint number that we all have access to. So if you ring that number, it actually rings around the whole team until someone picks up, and it does ring after hours as well. So if you have one of those incidents happen where you do need to contact us, please do. We'll pick up. Usually Hayley or Steph would be the one to answer the phone, but like I said, we all have access to that number. And then you've potentially been texted on a number already as well. Make sure you save that number as a text number only. We always tell the participants, save this 02 number as AgCAREERSTART call, and then the mobile number as the AgCAREERSTART text. You actually can't call the mobile number because it will just say it's not connected. It's just purely for the purposes of texting. But again, that text line we all have access to. So if you text us, we should all get back to you. Likewise, the AgCAREERSTART inbox one is a joint inbox as well. But I'm going to throw to Hayley now, who's going to chat you through the onboarding process.
Amazing. Thank you. Yes, I'm definitely on. So onboarding basically is what our participants have already received an onboarding handbook. You will also receive a host farmer handbook. As we mentioned, that is the Bible, has got all of the information in it. There's some key points with onboarding that is necessary for us. Before our participants start on farm, we would really love to see those host farmer agreements signed. If you have a participant that started on farm and you haven't received it, please let us know and we'll get one out to you. It's a big document, but we would really ask that you do read that handbook. Again, it's got all the answers to everything in it. We would like to see the signed contract before your participants start on farm. Mandy, did you have a question? Sorry.
No, I don't.
Oh, sorry, I just saw your hand flick up. Just wanted to double check. So that signed contract, if you can just CC us into the email when you flick it to your participant, that would be fantastic. The participants have all been told that they must complete ag card modules, it's HR and Safe Farm, before they start on your farm. So those will be completed during our onboarding process with them. And we have contacted your participants, but if you have a start date for your participant, if you can just let us know via the text line, sending Steph or Chloe an email, that would also be fantastic. Now, Obviously, as you can see on the screen, once all the onboarding is completed, there is a $2,000 payment that we can release to you after that. So there is a little bit of an incentive to get that done as soon as possible. We very much appreciate it. And then Chloe doesn't have to chase anyone up, which is always good. She's quite a scary lady. You don't want her on your toes. Um, in regards to other onboarding processes, while we have the paperwork, we do encourage you to do your own onboarding with the participant, whether that be safety, showing them around the farm. That's completely up to you and it's managed by yourselves. Something that we'd like to note is that a lot of these participants have never worked on farm before, so it's incredibly helpful. It sounds a little bit silly, but if you sent them a complete list of what they need to bring, whether that be work boots, jeans, whatever your uniform is, just so that they have an idea, because some of these kids are going to show up and they're not going to have any idea. So while we might think it's common sense, it's helping them be prepared a little bit.
Yeah. And there is actually there is a broad packing list that's actually in the handbook. And the participants all receive that. So that's a good starting point for you. But just in case you might need anything specific within your business, or let's say you don't allow people in your business to wear shorts, then make sure you let them know, because they just it sounds silly to say, it's not necessarily common sense for them if they've not been in that environment before. Beauty. Thanks, Hayley.
Excuse me.
Yes.
We haven't received the handbook, but we've got boys here started sort of in December.
You do. All right. No, we'll follow up that one. Thanks.
Or
I
the
know
host
Bernie's.
agreement.
Sorry,
Yeah.
Bernie.
Yeah, we haven't received the host agreement or anything.
Yeah. So the host agreement is just going with, through final processes at the moment. So if you've got them on farm, we'll have that to you ASAP.
Yeah, thank you.
But the handbook should be with you already. So I'll just follow that up with Chloe.
Is it emailed or mailed?
It would have been emailed. I'll check what the email title was, but it would have come from that AgCAREERSTART email address.
Yeah, no, thanks.
Beauty. We had the pleasure of meeting your 6 participants at O Week last week. Very fun. You've got an interesting bunch.
Diverse.
They're good. They're good. They're good value. Okay, so as we mentioned, a lot of these kids starting on farm have never been on farm. This might be their first full-time job. It might be their first full-time job, or any job to start with. So it's really beneficial for them and for you guys to ensure a stress-free year that we're going to help set them up for that success. So coming onto farm, there can be a few challenges that our participants face. A really large one is homesickness. Now, we have discussed homesickness with them last week at orientation week. We've also put a bit in the handbook. We're there for them to support them if they have any issues. But we just ask that if they are experiencing homesickness, try and get them out, get them into the community, have a chat with them. It's probably the biggest issue that we face with these kids. It's, the biggest one. Surprisingly, a lot of them don't know how to cook. 2-minute noodles it is. So maybe just checking in with them, making sure that they're eating vegetables once a week, having a nutritional balanced meal. That's a very big thing. We try and send them recipes that are nice and easy that they can cook. But yeah, something to be mindful of. Managing finances, as I'm sure we've all experienced as 18-year-olds, once you have money, it's a very exciting thing. Maybe encouraging them to budget, or having a talk about how to manage your finances. Again, we've talked through this with a workshop, but something just to be mindful of. Fatigue, as I mentioned, first full-time job, couple of hours going to be massive for them. So just when scheduling them, making sure that we're checking in, making sure that they're not tired and we're not going to have any incidents. Housekeeping is a big one. If they're staying on farm, just make sure that they know that you have rules, that you expect a tidy place. Maybe do a check-in every now and then. It's good to keep them on their toes, so always beneficial. And disagreements, just working with different team members. Again, something that you guys, I'm sure you can all manage. So all we ask is during this onboarding period, this adjustment period, we just want you guys to be patient with them, show them a bit of empathy. I'm sure it's a really tough time for you guys having a young, untrained person to start with, but it's very beneficial for them and for you if we're just nice and patient and we check in with them. Another big thing is just going forward with the year, making sure that they know what your expectations are, that they're nice and explicit, they're straightforward regarding equipment, property, time off, anything, that they know what the rules are, the boundaries are. There's no confusion. You're going to set yourself up for a much better employee.
Thanks, Hayley. We all of these things, like Hayley said, we covered a lot of this at O Week, and we did ask them to set expectations for themselves about how they were going to show up at work. So we are, like I said, in your corner. We're trying as much as possible to keep them accountable, and just reminding them that we've got our eyes on them as well. So again, use us as a resource. If they're not showing up on time, if they're keeping the house an absolute pigsty, just call us. We can always come out and do a site visit and show up in person, because that's always a bit more, I suppose, confronting than actually just getting a text from us. So again, we're here to help. And I hope we're not coming across as trying to preach to the converted. I know a lot of you do work with young people already, and so I'm sure you're all over it, but we do find, particularly for some of our newer farmers to the program, some of this can be a shock. How little they know and how underprepared they are can come as a shock. And so this is just I suppose, our big reminder to everyone to just take a deep breath and be prepared that you're going to get some stupid questions and some really stupid incidents happen, things that you'll just go, how? But they will happen, because again, this is just an environment, a lot of them they've never been in before. So, but please use each other as a venting tool, use us as a venting tool. If you need to take the pressure off, give us a call. If you want to get on the phone and have a beer on a Friday afternoon, we can absolutely do that. That's what we're here for. So yeah, just reach out.
We love hearing the stupid questions, so please share. All right. During the placement. So Kayla already mentioned, but we aren't going to interfere. These are your employees. That's the most important thing. We're just here to assist you with whatever you need, whether there's any challenges, someone to vent. A big thing, as Kayla already mentioned, with our hierarchy is safety is paramount. The only time that we will interfere is if we've had a check-in with the participants and they've raised something with us and they're not willing to go to you, then we'll just give you a call and let you know, because then everyone's on the same page.
So the way we explain that sort of stuff with our participants is that when they call us, anything they say will typically be confidential unless it's pertaining to their safety. So we will sort of use our sort of systems to decide how and in what way to deliver any information, particularly pertaining to, like I said, safety or concerns, and we'll only ever act with the participants' permission. So likewise, you guys, anything you say to us is in complete confidence as well, unless you explicitly tell us otherwise. So we're kind of just this holding system here for all of the icky stuff that happens throughout the year. Beauty. All right.
All right. So our community engagement officer it'll be Steph for the next couple of weeks, and then our replacement for Steph, who you'll all get to meet, will be in contact really regularly, just to do welfare checks on your participants. And also, if you need a welfare check, please, we're happy to give you a call and make sure that you're not losing your sanity. But we'll be checking in via text calls, emails, video calls. These will be done during the day. Obviously, with your permission, we'll give our participants enough notice. So it might just be 15 minutes at lunch that we just want to check in with them, 5 o'clock at the end of the day, something like that. During the year, we might duck out for a social check-in, as Kayla mentioned, just to see how everyone's going. We love seeing the site. We love seeing the participants on farm. We love hearing from you guys. We also might encourage you guys to participate in our media shoots, which is great advertising for us and the program, good advertising for yourself as well. It could be a radio interview, could be some photos. Yeah, we'll let you know, obviously. As I mentioned, Farm Host will also be engaged with during the placement. So Steph's replacement will be checking in with you regularly to make sure things are going well, if we can assist with anything. And as Kayla mentioned, we will have a group for the wider Farm Host to support one another through WhatsApp. So you guys can rant and talk and debrief. Yeah, that's what you guys are there for. As I think Kaylee already covered that, we'll probably contact you guys for feedback surveys as well during the year sometime.
Yeah, the surveys are kind of critical both for our future funding, but also how we demonstrate outcomes on the program. So those surveys will largely be about how the program itself works and what you think we can improve, what we can change, but also we will ask you a little bit about how you think your employee is sort of improving across the year or what their trajectory looks like, but also your own personal experience and your own personal growth through this program too. So do keep an eye out for those. And those surveys are, like I said, really important to us because it's what I take up to government to say this is going really well or this is what we're changing. So it is critical for us, and we do take feedback very, very seriously because like I said, it's a pilot and it's what it's all about. That WhatsApp, the link at the moment is not in the handbook. You'll actually receive that link by text, so bear with. We've just been getting that one up and running. This is a quick look at the interaction timeline. So Hayley just mentioned before that we'll check in with you, we'll check in with the participants throughout the year. And those interactions typically fall into one of two categories, which is our sort of engagement, or if we call it our welfare, well-being sort of check-ins. And then we also have our training check-ins as well. So everything to do with their welfare and well-being is on the left-hand side of that timeline, and everything to do with training is on the right. This is our minimum expectation. So participants can contact us at any time, just like you can. But if we haven't spoken to you within a month of them starting on farm, then you should expect a call from us within a month of them starting on farm. Likewise, the participant should receive a welfare check from us or a call from us within their first 3 months on farm at a minimum. So this is sort of what to expect. It looks like a lot on a piece of paper, but spread over 12 months. They're only contacted about once every month or month and a half typically, either by the community engagement coordinator, so Steph's role, or by Chloe for the training side of things as well. We'll talk about training now in just a second, but any questions about any of that at the involvement? Beauty, love it. Also, I'll flag, we're here to help you, but we hope you'll help us, because some of these guys like to hide from us throughout the year and don't respond. I think maybe, did I see Jeff Cosgrove online? His participant never responded to a single text message or call. So do encourage them to pick up the phone, because hopefully what we're doing is helping them navigate the challenges, and we're just an extra avenue for support. So again, we'll all help each other out on this journey. So looking at the training and engagement bursary, hopefully you're all aware that each of your participants have access to a $4,500 training bursary each. That is money held by us. At no point will your participant receive a check in the mail or a bank transfer or anything for $4,500. That's money that we hold. And again, it is not a right, it is a privilege to have access to that bursary. And if you think that appropriate punishment for some kind of performance management or issues on farm is that they don't get access to that bursary, you tell me that and I will deny them access to that bursary. Already we had an incident at O Week, which will mean that one of our participants isn't getting access to their bursary. It's actually a really great tool to use as an incentive or a punishment or consequence. So just let us know if you think they don't deserve access to their bursary, then we can work with you on that one. But to administer that bursary, they have to go through the training and career development coordinator. So that's Chloe. They have to meet with Chloe to use that bursary. So you saw in the interaction timeline, which was the last one there, they will meet with Chloe 4 times throughout the year. So that's not to say they can't bring her up and ask her if something comes up, but at a minimum, they should meet with Chloe 4 times throughout the year. Because what Chloe does is actually develop a training plan with them. So we're not just picking training willy-nilly or industry events willy-nilly. They actually sit down with Chloe, look at their background, their skills gaps, identify some of those gaps, and then also work with you as the host employer and the expert to say, hey, I really think they would benefit from doing their forklift ticket or their truck license, or they'd really benefit from going to a conference or a field day. So we put all of that into the training plan, and every time the participant meets with Chloe to update that training plan, you'll actually receive a copy. So you'll see what we're discussing in those training meetings and what they're talking about as being their goals for their training journey whilst they're on farm. And just like if you see anything in that training plan that you go, why the hell would they be doing that? Then you can call us. We can change that at any time. So it is largely participant sort of led, that journey, but again, you can be as involved or uninvolved as you'd like to be. In the past, this is just some examples of what our participants have chosen to spend money on. We have got participants already signed up to doing some courses before they go to farm, which is really great for this year, but there are many, many different things they can do, and by no means is this an exhaustive list. Whatever you've got going on in your local area or things that you think would help out on your farm, let us know, and we can either seek out the training, or what we are planning to do this year is do some group training. So that's actually us as AgCAREERSTART pulling our own facilitator in and running custom training events just for our participants, because there'll be, as I said, 100 of them. And I think we've got something like 30 or 40 in the cattle industry alone. So that's 30 or 40 kids to put through low stress talk handling and things like that. The big one here is time off. That is at your discretion. As we said before, I guess just asking for that open mind and that positive attitude about training and upskilling. But if you can't afford to let them go out of the business for, 3 or 4 days for training, then explain that to them. It's really good to sit down early on and explain to them sort of what you're comfortable with when it comes to training, because they will, trust me, feel terrified to come and ask you for time to go to training. So best that you get on the front foot with that one and explain to them what the expectations are, particularly if you've got multiple participants who might be wanting to go to do the same things.
I just have a quick question. We provide to all our staff training in low stress stock handling, opportunities to complete a certificate 3 or 4 in ag. Most of the things that you have listed are already within our internal training program.
Yeah.
So if you were going to run a collective training program just for AgCAREERSTART on low stress stock handling, we have highly likely already done it before you get there. What will they still then need to go to do that?
No. So, sorry, something I should have said is none of the training is prescriptive. Nothing is compulsory in this program. So we don't tell anyone they have to do anything. So if they want to do low stress stock handling, great. If they don't, if they've already done it, great. Then they can use that bursary on something else. So we don't prescribe anything, but we will, where it makes sense, look to bundle our participants together to go to group activities and training if it's useful. If it's not useful, then they can use it on something else. Another thing I just wanted to say about the bursary, it's $4,500, and that's money that they can use to travel to training and things as well. So maybe you're running a training, or you're paying for them to do their first aid, but you don't pay for them for the travel. They can also dip into their bursary for that. But because of that reason, and being such a geographically spread program, we don't let the bursary prohibit participants from going and doing things, particularly for our guys who have to travel so far or take particularly expensive travel routes to get somewhere. We can be a bit flexible with that bursary. So if they've got something really exciting, or you've got something exciting in mind for your participant, don't let that $4,500 number be a barrier, because we definitely want to make it equitable for everybody. And people who are making use of that bursary, we also like to reward as well. So there's really, I won't say it's limitless, because it is. I've certainly got a budget to adhere to, but we have participants who will drop out, and there's always extra bursary to get access to if you think there's something that is worthwhile for them. Does that answer the question, Samantha?
Yes, it does. I just wanted to
double
check that we weren't doubling up on the same kinds of things.
Yeah, Perfect. Something that does happen sometimes is that you'll have your AgCAREERSTART participant rock up to you at work one day and say, AgCAREERSTART said I had to go to innovation generation. That's a bold-faced lie, because like I said, nothing is compulsory in this program. Everything is an offer. If they would like to accept or make use of, go for their life, but nothing is compulsory except for those onboarding steps. That's the only compulsory part. So just bear that in mind when they come and tell you they need time off. The other thing they can use their burst run, as I started to say, is industry engagement. So that's conferences, field days, shows, that kind of stuff. All of that is paid for by the program. So things like Cotton Conference, which will be on the Gold Coast this year, Beef Australia Week, which is in Rockhampton this year. LAMX will be in Adelaide. We will pay for their flights, accommodation, tickets to go. Sometimes we do extra little tack on study days as well while they're all together. All of that's paid for, and we find the participants get so much value out of going to those things, not just from a learning point of view, because that's all part of it, of course, but the ability to network and see themselves and how they fit into the industry in a bigger picture has real impact for them. And you watch them walk away and go, this makes sense to me now. What I do on the farm makes sense because I can see how it fits into the broader industry. Also, it's a lot of fun, which just adds so much value from that point of view to their year. And the other important part is connecting them with their cohort, which is what we definitely aim to do with O Week. And already I'm excited to see how that pays off for the participants, but we want to keep them connected both to each other, but also to us. So they can essentially attend any event they like with your permission, again, of course, as long as it relates to the farm or the farm business in some way, or agriculture more broadly. What we will do throughout the year is we sort of pick a few events that we know are really great for participants to attend, and we try and funnel them to go to those events. So let's say we try and get all the cotton participants to go to Cotton Conference on the Gold Coast. Because what we can actually do in that situation is negotiate with Cotton Australia a discounted ticket rate for them. And like I said, we often organise additional study tours and things as well. So for example, Innovation Generation, the last 2 years, we've brought the participants in a day early, and we did a cooking class with the group who went to Innovation Generation last year because cooking was such a big problem for so many of them. We've done extra days in the field walks and things like that. So the events that we recommend are always super beneficial, but by no means, again, an exhaustive list. So some of the ones I think that come to top of mind will be Innovation Generation, which is on the Gold Coast, Cotton Conference on the Gold Coast, Beef, LAMX, Evoke Ag, which is only in a couple of weeks' time. And there's probably a million more. Future Ag, which will be in Melbourne this year. So big conferences where they can get a lot of exposure at an industry level. Any questions about events? Something I didn't cover, but there is a travel policy attached to the handbook. I'm not sure that you guys as farmers receive the travel policy, but there's a policy and they should know that policy. We don't cover everything, but we cover most things. I think we're pretty generous. But there is a travel policy that explicitly outlines whether or not they should travel or drive to an event based on the distance they'll be traveling, but also whether or not meals would be included in an event and all those sorts of things, what they should wear, because that's always really fun. And they have a code of conduct as well. Alrighty. Feels silly to say, but the other thing we have to talk about today is what happens at the end of the placement. So when we reach the end of the placement, so we will have a formal graduation date, which will be sometime in December. This year it was the 12th of December. Oh, sorry, last year, 2023, it was the 12th of December. And at that point, all of our participants officially graduate from the program. That does not mean they have to stop working on your farm. That just means that they no longer have access to their training and engagement bursary, and we sort of reduce the level of support that we provide them. Our phone is always on for them to call us, no matter what, whether they're a current cohort or an alumni from 2 years ago. We'll always chat to them, but we obviously just reduce that level of support to them. But you as the employer have sort of 3 options when it gets to the end of the year. The first of those is to continue offering them employment, because like I said, about 40% of them choose to stay on farm. That's always a fantastic outcome. But again, if you choose to do that, they fall outside the scope of the program, which means, yeah, losing that bursary and losing that high level support. A lot of them will choose to sort of wrap up their year, take the experience for what it was, and either go off to other opportunities, whether that be university or other employment opportunities, in which case you may choose to reapply for the next intake. The community engagement coordinator will talk you through all of those things. Or the other option, which we see a lot of our participants still doing, is coming back for seasonal work while they're at uni and things like that. So by no means is the journey over when we reach the end of the year. That you can have them around for as long and in whatever capacity you like. They will meet with Chloe, or our training and career development coordinator, towards the end of the year to sort of start looking at what happens next. And we actually run an online webinar for them about having the big scary chat, which is, what am I going to do next year, or do you want to keep me next year? So again, encouraging open dialogue as we reach the end of the year. If you've got something in mind for them, or you're not going to keep them, or you do want to keep them, make sure you're really communicative with them about that. Because again, when we reach the end of the year, that's the number one phone call we receive is, I'm terrified to ask my boss whether or not I can stay. And then of course, we also ask you, if they are going to move on, that you would write them a reference letter, if of course you feel comfortable to do so. We'll provide you a template towards the end of the year to assist you in doing that. But again, not compulsory there. Anything about finishing up the placement, which feels crazy given it's not the end of January yet? No. Something that's not in here that I just wanted to cover really quickly is, for the first time, we're offering our participants access to an online counselling service, or a free counselling service. They can call, they can text, or they can have like a Zoom session with a counsellor. That is free. We've partnered with an organisation called TIACS, which is TIACS. Many of you will be familiar with the trademark shirts, the work shirts, the really bright, colourful work shirts. Every purchase of one of those work shirts funds a mental health charity called TIACS, and that service has trained counsellors on staff, and they're particularly focused on the blue collar industry, so farmers, tradies, those sorts of people. And so we've partnered with them this year to offer our participants 8 free sessions. So if your participant is having a rough time on farm, if you're having a rough time, pick up the phone and call them. They're free to you. It's free to the participants. Anyone involved in this program can pick up the phone and call them for free, and you'll get 8 free sessions. So mental health is, really important. Psychological safety is equally as important as physical safety in our books. So definitely encourage them to do that. Don't let them walk too far alone. Always someone there to talk to. And likewise, if your participant is dumping on you that you're not equipped to deal with, push them to TIACS. That's what it's there for. Same with my team. If they call us and disclose something that's really heavy or too much for us in our professional capacity to handle, then we will also refer them to TIACS as well. So just a good one to be aware of. So just to wrap it all up, a reminder that these are the 2 numbers that you need to remember. So the call line, which is that 02 number. If you see Canberra calling you, chances are it's one of us. And then that text line there, which, as I mentioned, maybe some of you might have missed it. We've got more people in the waiting room. You might have missed it. That's a text line only. So you cannot call that mobile number, unfortunately. So make sure you save it in your phone as AgCAREERSTART text or something like that. But that is your onboarding and induction session done. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're going to stick around now for questions, or if you wanted to ask. I know we've got a few returning employers on the program. I see Daniel Carl, I see Alicia Antonio, and a few others who have been with us before. So if you'd like to ask, if you're new and want to ask questions, please just come off mic now and do that. And like I said, we'll stick around to answer any questions as well.